lot of us get very worried about what other people are doing. And who can blame us? Our politicians, religious leaders, and even the celebrities and influencers we like tell us we should be. The people they accuse of the things they dislike seem to be very different to us. They threaten our world with something unusual, something we don't like, and we worry that they're taking over, making what they want to do the norm, and rejecting the way things have always been done around here. And these people are all around us, seemingly, with their different words, ideas, food, clothes and culture, threatening to turn us into the worst thing we can imagine, bullying us into being just like them. If you're feeling a bit like this, then you may have become caught up in one of the most invisible and persistent forms of fear society has invented, the moral panic. But don't worry, thanks to the work of a certain Stanley Cohen, we know how to spot these moral panics, what they're doing to us, and what to do if we think we're becoming infected by them. Cohen was a British South African who became interested in social distinctions between people and why some people are selected as different. He conducted fieldwork on various youth gangs and he became fascinated by society's reaction to them. His book, Folk Devils and Moral Panics, became an instant bestseller. It studied what were, in reality, relatively minor fights and scuffles between gangs in Brighton in the UK in the 1960s, and how these were portrayed by the media as nothing less than highly dangerous riots likely to threaten the very nature of the British way of life. His pioneering work has given us a guide to how moral panics are built and work. And yes, we can see the same things showing themselves today in what some politicians tell us is wrong and what they want us to do about it. Cohen argued that moral panics have a number of obvious parts. They start when a particular behaviour is seen as so different that it threatens social norms and values. We start to see such people as different, as folk devils. Some are worth avoiding, of course, like drug dealers or people who carry knives. But the problem is that they tend to get mixed up with other people perhaps who just like wearing different types of clothes. Today, though, they might include travellers, those who are too ill to work, and, of course, immigrants of various types. He warned us too about something called media amplification. This is when the media we use or rely on starts to obsess about folk devils to such an overwhelming degree that the problems they embody escalate out of all proportion to their reality. This involves sensationalist reporting, frequent coverage, and dramatic narratives that exaggerate public concern. Isolated and small-scale incidents then become a widespread problem. Cohen also told us to watch out for moral entrepreneurs. These are individuals or groups such as politicians, religious leaders, commentators or self-appointed activists who campaign to raise awareness about the threats from folk devils. They usually describe their worries in moral terms, calling for firm action to protect social values, culture, or a way of life. And they may do this not only because they're worried about a problem, they may also see opportunities for themselves in describing things the way they do, cashing in on their increased profile or notoriety, or the potential solutions being proposed perhaps as a way of making money. We're urged by Cohen to ask ourselves more often, why are they doing this? Particularly when the problem is actually quite minor. What are we ignoring as we focus on these moral panics? And who benefits when we do so? So, where does fear hide when it sees a moral panic? And what should we look for in others as they become engulfed by it? Well, Cohen tells us there are 4 main things to watch out for. The first thing to spot is what semiologists call the framing of language. This tends to simplify complex problems, makes matters clear-cut, casts challenges in binary terms, either as good or bad, and then attaches the bad bit to the behaviour of these folk devils, rather than the circumstances they find themselves in, or even the actual facts of the matter. It helps if these groups are different enough to be easily identified and picked on. As a result, folk devils are dehumanised, as somehow less than us, treated as numbers or statistics, rather than people with different ideas, or even with the same problems as everyone else. We know this is happening when the people we're told to be anxious about are described as lazy, selfish, parasites, infections, or vermin. Then comes the appeal to authority. This involves the use of think tanks and commentators, the construction of one-sided statistics and perspectives, and demands that authorities do something about it, even when the something is pretty reprehensible and the it is not really grounded in reality in the first place. The next thing to watch for is the promotion of moral solutions. These are often framed in ways that emphasise the public good, or highly selected cultural rules, and the need to restore order to protect society's values. The solutions may include stricter laws, increased surveillance and control, or even direct punishment, but only against those identified as the folk devils, of course, the them, not us. Finally, there's the marginalising of opposition. Any opposition to the moral panic narrative is often discredited or downgraded by those capable of doing so. Critics of a moral panic may be accused of being complicit or indifferent to the threat, or ignoring the rights of the majority. This polarises the argument and reduces opportunities for balanced discussion and compromise to an absolute minimum. All of this, the subjectivity, the untruths, the hate, and the intolerance, provides a wonderful breeding ground for fear. What more could it ask? And where, perhaps we should ask more often, will it take us? Well, be critical, ask questions, think about what it is you really want to protect and what you truly value. Does hate or injustice have a place here? Are problems really being caused by our folk devils? Or are the issues actually more complicated? Only you will know the answer to these questions, but before you do try to answer them, ask yourself too, who benefits most from the world fear is describing to you? You might just begin to see more than one devil at work here, and it might not be the one you were told to fear most. What do you think? Are these moral panics justified? Are there times when we should outlaw the cultures and ideals of others, even when we're actually free to reject them in any event? What is important to protect in society? And how do we make sure this happens? Are moral panics a sign that those with power are using it to stay in control? Let me know, and if you found this video interesting, like, share and subscribe. It'll cost you nothing. In the meantime, despite what you read and see, don't panic. Remember, you have nothing to fear but ignorance.